Okay, so today in Lesson 4, we're going to continue looking at the relationship of different operations. And today we're looking at the relationship of division and subtraction. So part 1 here asks us to draw a tape diagram to represent 6 being divided by 3 and to write the equation represented in this model. So remember, we can look at 6 divided by 3 as 6 is 3 groups of what number? So I would draw my 6 and I would see how many groups of 3 I can circle, or I'm sorry, how many groups, 3 groups of what number I can circle, so that gives me 2. And then I can also look at it as how many groups of 3 are in 6. So I can draw my 6 and circle groups of 3. In this case, there's 2 in each group, and in this case, there are 2 groups of 3. So both ways, no matter how you look at it, 6 divided by 3 is going to give you 2. So now 2 says division is repeated subtraction. Model 6 being divided by 3 with repeated subtraction. So what this is saying is if I take my 6 and I repeatedly subtract 3 until I have none left, it's going to give me a division problem. So I'm going to subtract 3 from 6. So here's minus 3, so that's 1 subtraction. Here's minus 3, that's 2 subtractions. So I am taking 6, subtracting 3, subtracting another 3, and getting 0. That's another way to show 6 divided by 3 is 2, because I'm taking 6, I'm subtracting 3 twice. Okay, so a little different here. So I can write this division problem as 6 divided by 3 is 2, or 6 repeatedly subtracted by 3 is 0, and it's repeatedly subtracted that 2 times. So that shows me 6 divided by 3 is 2. Okay, so we are going to look at some more examples of this. If we have the division problem, 8 divided by 4 equals 2, I can show repeated subtraction for this. So there's 2 actual ways we can look at this. We can look at this as subtracting 4 repeatedly until we get to 0, or we can look at this as repeating 2 repeatedly, subtracting 2 repeatedly until we get to 0. So if I do 8 minus 4, I get 4. And if I do 4 minus 4, I get 0. So notice I have repeatedly subtracted 4 twice from 8. So 8 divided by 4 is 2. We can also look at it as repeatedly subtracting 2 from 8 until we get to 0. So 8 minus 2 is 6, minus 2 is 4, minus 2 is 2, minus 2 gives us that 0. Notice there's 1, 2, 3, 4 2's that we've subtracted. So we can look at it as 8 minus 4 2 times is 0, or 8 minus 2 4 times is 0. So now we're going to bring some variables in. When we do it with variables, we can look at this as 10 minus x 2 times is 0. 10 minus x 2 times is 0. So 10 minus x equals 0. We can also look at this as 10 minus 2, minus 2 x times is 0. So in order to figure out what x is in this case, and we're going to pretend we don't know what x is, we can keep subtracting 2 from 10 and see how many times we subtracted it to get the value of x. So I can do 10 minus 2, which is 8, minus 2, which is 6, minus 2, which is 4, minus 2, which is 2, minus 2, which gives me that 0. And now I can count how many times I subtracted 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, to see that the value of the variable, or what x is equal to, is 5. If we go back to this, 10 minus 5 is 5, and 5 minus 5 gives us that 0. So it does, in fact, work out. So when you're given a division problem with a variable, you can use the repeated subtraction of the number given to figure out what x is. So let's look at some more examples here. So this says if 12 divided by x equals 3, how many times would x have to be subtracted from 12 in order for the answer to be 0? So the division problem itself tells us that. So we can use these numbers we have. If I have 12 divided by x, that means if the answer is 3, I'd have to be subtracting it 3 times. To find the value of x, however, if I did 12 minus x minus x minus x is 0, I may not be able to figure out what that x is. However, I can use that answer of 3 to help me. I can repeatedly subtract 3 from 12 until I get to 0, and then count how many times I subtracted 3. So 12 minus 3 is 9, minus 3 is 6, minus 3 is 3, minus 3 gets me 0. So I subtracted 3, 1, 2, 3, 4 times, which tells me x in this case would be 4. So if I go back here and replace the x's with 4, 12 minus 4 is 8. 8 minus 4 is 4. And 4 minus 4 is in fact that 0. So x is equal to 4. In the next one, it says 36 minus f minus f minus f minus f equals 0. It wants us to write a division sentence for this repeated subtraction sentence. What is the value of f? So, if we were to look at this, we see that there are 4 f's. So, what I can do is repeatedly subtract 4 from 36 to figure out what f is. So 36 minus 4 is 32, minus 4 is 28, minus 4 is 24, minus 4 is 20, minus 4 is 16, minus 4 is 12, minus 4 is 8, minus 4 is 4, minus 4 gets me the 0. So to find the value of f, I can count how many times I subtracted 4. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So the value of f is 9. So I'm saying 36 divided by f is 4. 4 times being subtracted. And f would be equal to 9. If 24 divided by b is equal to 12, which number is being subtracted 12 times in order for the answer to be 0? So what I can do is use the numbers I have to figure this out. So I can do 24 minus 12 is equal to 12, and 12 minus 12 is equal to 0. So I'm repeatedly subtracting 12 until I get to 0. I see that there are 2 numbers. So what that means is, if I were to subtract 2 12 times from 24, I would get 0. So b is equal to 2.